The sky split open with a blinding flash that no human eye could ignore. In the heart of every major city, people stopped in their tracks, staring upward as the clouds seemed to shudder and peel away. Massive metallic shapes hovered above the skyline, ships unlike anything Earth had ever seen. They were vast, glimmering with a strange iridescence that shifted colors like liquid metal, edges sharp yet somehow organic. A hum vibrated through the ground, low and constant, resonating in the bones of anyone who stood still long enough to feel it. Phones fell from hands, car horns blared, and somewhere a child screamed. A voice came next, but not in any human language. It was a vibration in the air, rhythmic and structured, but utterly incomprehensible. Governments scrambled, satellites recalibrated, and military jets were dispatched, only to hover uselessly beneath the imposing vessels. News channels cut to live feeds, commentators frantic, viewers glued to screens worldwide. The aliens' message, whatever it was both a declaration and a demand, and the world had no translator, no context, no hope of understanding. Panic spread through streets like wildfire. Some people ran, believing the world was ending. Others stood frozen, mesmerized by the silent choreography of the hovering giants. In a control room beneath the United Nations building, leaders and scientists clustered around glowing screens, trying to decode the impossible. Algorithms spun. AI simulations calculated probabilities, yet no one could make sense of the alien patterns. Even the most advanced quantum translators failed, rendering the alien communication as nothing more than noise. Then, amidst the chaos, a quiet realization began to surface. The aliens themselves seemed frustrated. Their massive hulls shifted, lights blinking rapidly in patterns that suggested urgency. The vibrations of their speech became more insistent, almost impatient. Whatever message they had intended to convey, it was being met with an unanticipated barrier. Earthlings simply could not understand, and the aliens were struggling in turn to comprehend the humans. In that moment, a collective thought seemed to pass over humanity. Maybe this was not just a test of strength or weaponry, but a test of understanding. Somewhere, someone might hold the key to bridging the gap between two civilizations separated by centuries of evolution and an unfathomable distance of experience. And as the world watched in awe and fear, a subtle sense of anticipation began to bloom. Because while the aliens were powerful, humans had something no machine, no algorithm, and no alien could predict: ingenuity, curiosity, and the relentless drive to comprehend the incomprehensible. Amid the swirling chaos, one name began to rise above the noise: Dr. Mira Khan. A linguist and cryptographer with a reputation for solving seemingly impossible language puzzles, she was summoned to a heavily guarded research facility on the outskirts of Geneva. As she stepped out of the armored transport, the enormity of the situation hit her. Outside, hundreds of scientists, engineers, and military personnel worked in a frantic ballet, trying to make sense of the alien presence. Screens flickered with streams of incomprehensible symbols, graphs of sound frequencies, and simulation data that seemed to go nowhere. Mira approached the central console, her mind already racing. The fragment of language the aliens had projected was unlike anything in human history. It didn't resemble any earthly tongue. There were no familiar phonetics, no recognizable syntax, not even anything resembling written symbols as humans understood them. Yet there was structure, rhythm, and repetition, a pattern that suggested logic beneath the chaos. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just a puzzle, it was a bridge to another civilization. Hours passed in a blur. Mira traced shapes in the air, muttered possible interpretations, and mapped sounds against visual patterns. She noticed something the others had missed: subtle inflections and tonal shifts that seemed meaningless to human ears but carried distinct meaning. It was almost musical, a language designed not for machines, but for beings with a physiology she could barely imagine. As she began to mimic the tones, her colleagues watched with bated breath. Every note, every subtle rise and fall seemed impossible for humans to produce perfectly, yet Mira's instincts guided her. The aliens observed from their hovering vessels, their massive hulls vibrating lightly as if responding to her attempts. There was a moment, a fleeting instant, when the alien broadcasts paused, the air vibrating with something that felt like hesitation. Mira felt a thrill run through her. They were listening, and more importantly, they were trying to understand her in return. By the end of the second day, she had deciphered small fragments, simple words, gestures of intent, and emotional cues embedded in the sounds. It was a start. A fragile thread connecting humanity to a species that had believed they were beyond comprehension. Mira realized that the task ahead was monumental. The aliens were advanced, but they lacked one thing humans had in abundance: creativity. She understood now that this was not just about translating words, it was about translating thought, culture, and imagination. And for the first time, hope flickered across the room. Perhaps humans were not only capable of understanding the aliens, but of surprising them in ways no one had ever imagined. You said, "Please expand." The alien emissaries retreated slightly, their massive forms shimmering as though recalibrating their perception of humanity. For the first time, the humans observing from the chamber realized the full weight of what had just occurred. Dr. Mira Khan had not only translated the lost language of their ancestors, she had conveyed the essence of human ingenuity, imagination, and resilience. Every subtle inflection, every tonal nuance carried centuries of human thought, curiosity, and emotion, and the aliens could not contain their astonishment. Outside the facility, word spread like wildfire. News channels broadcast footage of the first successful communication, and the world collectively held its breath. Analysts debated the implications, scientists speculated on the possibilities, and ordinary people felt a swelling pride. Humanity had faced beings far older and more technologically advanced, and yet, for the first time, humans had surprised them, not with weapons, but with the unique brilliance of the human mind. Within the chamber, the dialogue continued, less frantic and more measured. The aliens' vibrations now seemed tinged with respect, almost cautious curiosity. Mira spoke again, carefully shaping the ancient words to convey ideas of ethics, creativity, and adaptability. The aliens responded, not with dominance or intimidation, but with a tentative acknowledgement. Their immense intellect was still formidable, but they recognized that human ingenuity was unpredictable, fluid, and entirely their own. Mira noticed subtle changes in the alien behavior. Their movements slowed, their light patterns softened, and their attention to human responses intensified. They were learning, not just about the language, but about the humans themselves. Every gesture, every choice, every clever solution humans proposed was being absorbed and analyzed. It became clear, humanity had not merely communicated, it had impressed, challenged, and even unsettled them. As the day drew to a close, the alien ships began to drift upward, casting long shadows over the cities below. Before departing, the lead emissary projected a final series of vibrations, an intricate pattern that seemed both a farewell and a warning. It was a recognition of humanity's potential, a silent message that humans were not to be underestimated. For the first time, the aliens left Earth not with conquest in mind, but with caution and respect. Mira stepped outside, watching the massive ships disappear into the upper atmosphere. Around her, people cheered, cried, and embraced, but she felt a quiet, profound awe. Humanity had faced the unknown and prevailed in a way no one could have predicted. They had spoken what no alien could comprehend, not just bridging worlds but leaving an indelible mark on the galaxy. The story of that day would be told for generations, a reminder that human creativity, courage, and intellect were forces no being, alien or otherwise, could ever fully master.